and here we have him, Mr. Kenny Hunter. How are you, mate?
Good on you, Rocco. Good to see you, mate.
Welcome back, Kenny.
Good on you, Vince.
Welcome back to the Jumper Punch.
Back to the Jumper Punch.
This is like the bookends. We had you at the start of the season with Wayne Johnson, and now we've got you on your own.
It's great to hear you.
Yeah, before we get one of the great finals players.
Yes, it's of course finals season at the moment, so unfortunately Carlton's not there, but you wouldn't have had too many occasions where you weren't part of the finals.
No, I was very lucky actually. I don't think there was a year that I played at Carlton that we weren't in the finals. So.
Is that really? Right? So for the whole period, so from 81, we never missed the finals?
No. Not until 1989.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 89 we missed out. And
I came in
1990 we missed out.
Yeah, so
and when did you finish up?
End of 88. So
it's a bit of a coincidence. Then they don't make the final as soon as you leave.
Well, no, it was.
Can you come back and play?
No. Look, I consider myself very fortunate that one of the things that was made loud and clear to me when I first got to Carlton was that we're expected to make finals, and then we'll see how good you are. So,
right.
I mean, we all played that. We knew that we were going to be in the finals, and hopefully try and win a grand final.
Yeah, well. The culture was a lot different back then, wasn't it? I mean, finals was almost didn't even have to be mentioned. That making the finals was the minimum expectation. That was a given, wasn't it?
It was expected. It really was, and it was ingrained into you as soon as you walked into the club, and and even throughout the season, even when we were playing mediocre sides, sometimes we got beaten. That we knew that when it really counted, that we'd be able to get up and at least compete in the finals.
So we see who recruited you? Like, how did you get over to Carlton?
It was a funny story actually. It was North Melbourne was the first side that showed interest in me, and Ron Joseph came over and he signed me up on a serviette. He gave me an offer of 33, 100,000 over 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And that was pretty big money back in those
days. Is that good?
It was back then. It was.
Yeah.
You could buy a house with 33 grand.
Yeah, you could. And I was probably getting about $10,000 at Claremont at the time.
All right, so definitely good.
So it was good. So, but then what happened was
you played for Claremont.
I did. I played for Claremont.
Now, Claremont. Could we just stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
Claremont has the CFC logo.
The yellow one.
It's yellow.
That's correct. Yeah,
with a navy blue type of jumper.
Yeah, so it was quite ironic at the end.
Quite ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was. So North, I virtually said, "Oh, look, I'm coming." That was in 1979, I think, or 78. And anyway, I had my jaw broken for the third time in a state game by Mark McClure, ironically.
Really?
No.
Yeah, Sellers. Did you get him back?
No, it was a pure accident. He was running down the field, bouncing the ball. I dove across his boot and he missed the ball, missed my arms and kicked me under the chin and knocked me out. And went to the hospital and broke my jaw for the third time. So North Melbourne, they just dropped off.
I can, because...
So maybe Mark McClure did you a big favour.
He did, yeah.
If Sellers couldn't get to the ball, he'd make sure he'd get to you, wouldn't he?
Deliberately or not, yeah.
So he did you a bit of a favour, yeah, so...
So North dropped off, and so for a couple of years there, I was, I just started playing footy and started playing reasonable football again, and I had interest from Collingwood, Hawthorn and Carlton all at the same time. And Carlton invited me over for a game as a guest, and I came over.
When was this? What year?
79.
So 79,
yeah. Yeah, so the year they won the premiership. And, I remember sitting next to Bruce Dorr in the stand because he was injured, and then got to three-quarter time and Bruce just got up and left. I'm going, it's a bit weird.
Did he talk to you?
He did talk to me a bit, but he just decided to, I couldn't work out why anyone would leave and the game hasn't even finished. And then once you got to know Bruce, you understand why, because he didn't like crowds and he didn't want to be there, and so he didn't want to get harassed. So off he left, and after the game I was invited down to the committee room by George Harris and another committeeman, and they made out they were doing me the biggest favour of all time if I signed with Carlton, and I ended up signing for $5,000 back then, and that made it was called a Form 4, so you were bound to Carlton by then. You signed this form. So I remember getting on the plane and thinking, you idiot, I had all these other clubs chasing me, and I signed my life away for $5,000, and I knew that other players were probably getting 15 to 20,000.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I've been really stooged a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was the best decision I'd ever made.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Career-wise, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So. So when you did, then you got to Carlton, and you were saying like it was expected you to win. Where was that led by? Was it led by like the top president? Down the line, was it known as soon as you got there? Like, that's it, mate.
Mind you, you'd come at the end of 1980 when there was a bit of change at the club.
Yep.
Of course, 12 months earlier we had all the turmoil with Alex Jeslenko leaving the club. But at the end of 1980, Perce Jones is replaced by David Parkin. Ian Rice is the new president, or had been president for a year. So, you know, that was the backdrop to you and Peter Bosustow coming over from WA. Did that make you feel unsettled in some ways, or were you quite, you know,
No, I wasn't.
quite immune to all that?
Yeah, I was immune to it all. I was just, you know, I'd played like 99 games for Claremont and represented West Australia probably 12 or 13 times.
99 games? Gee,
Yeah.
You would have loved to play one more, wouldn't you? And give it your 100?
Well, yeah, but it ended up like Don Brevin, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
You played 99.94 games for Claremont.
Yeah, so, but no, I was, by the time I was, we used to watch the winners in WA, like you go to the pub on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Everyone would watch the winners, and because Carlton was so successful, they'd always be on. So I'd signed with them in '79, so I'd always watch the boys, and I sort of knew that I'd be part of the team, or try to be part of the team.
Yeah.
And so when it came to come over to Carlton, I just couldn't wait to get here. And I know they had history prior to me coming, but I was more concerned about just trying to get a game. So when I first arrived at Carlton, it was everything to me seemed big, you know, like big supporters.
Yeah.
Big businessmen, big cars, big farms. Everything was powerful.
Big political allies too. With Malcolm Fraser was the he was the Prime Minister at the time. And big Carlton supporter, number one ticket holder, in fact.
Yeah, and I arrived, and you know, my first training session. I've told this story before, but you know, we ran up and down these hills for about 2 hours, and I virtually crawled to my car and better drive off, and I hear this voice saying, "Hey mate, where are you going?" And I looked across, and it was Mark McClure. I said, "Well, I'm going home." He goes, "No, you're not following me." We went straight to the nearest pub.
Yep.
So I went into the pub with him, and next minute all the blokes from training, they all came into the pub, drinking beers. And
that would have been Norton's Hotel in Royal Parade, wouldn't it?
well, you know, the first, that's where most of it was done. But and then it was one of these sessions, and Trevor Keogh came up and he goes, "Hey mate, what position do you play?" And I said, "Well, half-back flank." And he goes, "Well, good luck. There's only about 5 balls thrown in the back." And I wanted to say,
South B, Dual,
and
Harmsy.
And I wanted to say, "Well, mate, I've just played in 2 carnivals and I've been picked in all Australia."
That's right, they didn't know. They didn't know.
nothing
twice
about
or 3 times you'd already got? Twice before.
Yeah, in carnivals back in those days. Where
I like how humbled you are.
Yeah, that's it. I'll let
you
my
didn't throw it in their
actions
face.
talk,
If your name was Peter Bosustow, they would have known.
Oh, yeah, I knew about Buzz, all right, but not that I knew much about him. But no, he's so it was quite an interesting induction into the Carlton Footy Club, and you know, I just wanted to keep my head down and prove myself on the footy field, because in those days at Carlton, if you stuck it up too far, they get knocked off pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that was one of the beauties, I think, of keeping people grounded within Carlton. And everybody, I suppose, when you look at 360-degree feedback in companies today, that was our 360-degree feedback in the pub, you know. So
yeah, they say that. Yeah, that Sunday session too, where everyone would be like honest with each other, and
they were probably too honest at times, but but look, it was
good way to know how your peers are feeling about the way you play.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, even then, I still keep my head down and just absorb everything that was going on around me and just take it all in. And you know, I mean, these guys have played together throughout '79 and they were successful, and then '80, and so you just wanted to, you know, just be
fit in.
Yeah, didn't want to, you know, put your head up too
well,
far.
you fitted in pretty good. Didn't you win the best and fairest?
Yeah.
In '81, so you know when you said
your
when you walked
first
in
season,
and they said, "Oh, there's a couple of all Australians there," and you were thinking, "Oh,
I'll show them what I
I'll
can
show
do.
you, and you win the bet.
Oh, yeah.
In a premiership year,
In a premiership
which
year.
is a better quality of best and fairest than any other year.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even thinking that
Nah, of
I would
course.
even win a best and fairest, but it was, I guess, Peter Pizzasto, coming over, and he's been the extroverted half-forward flanker, and I was the introverted half-back flanker. That all I wanted to do was just to beat him on
Beat
the
him.
best and fairest.
You would say,
So,
You not just beat him, you beat everyone else on the side too.
so,
you would say that. So yeah, no, that's a good year. And that first game, who'd you play first game for Carlton?
was
we
Richmond.
played Richmond.
So that would have been,
At Waverley,
at Waverley.
oh, was it?
big crowd.
So it would have been like 60.
70,000.
Was that the first time something like that big of a crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. So, well, I mean, I was probably biggest was probably
25, 30.
20,000. Maybe
Yeah.
a state game that could have been 35 or something. But and it was amazing because all the practice games that I played in leading up to the first game, we lost and didn't just lose.
yes, you
we
did.
got absolutely thrashed.
Yeah.
And David Parkin obviously being the first coach, and he wondered what he got himself into, and I did too. And I remember.
Were you a little bit worried?
I was a bit worried. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, I mean, these good bunch of blokes, and they don't mind a beer, but geez, I hope they can.
They're not taking
play
it
footy.
serious.
Yeah, they're not taking it seriously, is what I thought. And anyway, I got to the last game and got beaten by Richmond in Bendigo, I think, or something like that. And
All these practice matches, yeah.
yeah, Bruce Toole came out and said, "Don't worry about it, it's only a practice match." And that was the attitude of the players back then. They said, well, they knew when to turn it on.
Yeah.
So they could play hard off the field, but when it came to playing hard on the field, they could play hard on the field as well.
And they did, yeah.
And they did, yeah.
Yeah.
So, come the first game.
So
Yeah.
Parkin's already thinking,
What have I
oh
got
my
myself
God,
into?"
what am I doing?
And he did, I mean, Parko, to his credit, he did try to change it early on, the culture of Carlton, and then
Realised it was a full-on task.
Yeah, it was a full-on task, and he's better off to give it a little bit, and which he did.
Yes.
And I guess the chemistry then started to work between the coach and the players, and come round one, Richmond had won the premiership the year before.
That's right.
We absolutely
Smashed Collingwood.
Yeah, and
We pulled their pants down in round one. That would have been embarrassing for them.
Yeah, well, it was a great way to start, and to beat the reigning premiers by over 10 goals, I think it was. It was a great start to the season.
Yeah, and that's when you thought, all right. Because you had some good plays around you, didn't you? Like that side, I think it's a little bit underrated. That 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. Could be one of the best sides really ever, really. Like, it was a great side.
Yeah, I don't think they get the credit
No.
that they should get, really, particularly, like I said, probably 79, 80, 81, 82. They could have won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
3 out of 4 we won.
Yeah, 3
We call that a dynasty. Even today they say Richmond just had a dynasty. They won 3 premierships in 4 years.
Yeah.
Brisbane Lions had 3 in a row.
Yep.
Made the grand final the year after. That was in the early 2000s. They call that the Brisbane Lions dynasty. So it very much qualifies for a dynasty.
I think so.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think so too, and I think we all that were part of it. Probably, I'd think that as well, because it was a special time in all our lives, and I'm very grateful to Carlton Footy Club, but to also the players that I played with.
Yeah, 100%, man. Gee, but man, I remember, man, like you're there, of course, but like Dominator, Duel, Harms. Anyway, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Not that you come across as anyone who'd take anything for granted, but it'd probably be a natural feeling to think, geez, this is pretty good. Premiership year 1, Premiership year 2.
Yeah.
How good's this?
Yeah.
Did you ever get in a way complacent in that sense? Maybe not you individually, but as a team, do you think that they started to lose the fire in the belly and sort of rest on their laurels a little bit, or did they keep trying and pressing for another one?
No, I think look,
because 83, 84, 85 we were in the finals, but losing elimination finals and semi-finals by then.
I think it'd be fair to say that some of the fire went out of the belly of some of the players. Because they played in 3 premierships and they're quite young, some of them.
Yeah.
And when you
Glasgow's a good example.
Well, Glasgow, but also when you look at the players from '79 like Marku, McConville, Jono,
Sheldon,
Buckley,
all
Sheldon.
of the Mosquito fleet.
Yeah, they're all probably 18, 19, 20 tops.
Yeah.
And then, they're playing 3 premierships by the time you're 24.
Yeah.
It's keep fronting up. And, and when you look back at it, and when you think, some of those players were no longer at the club by the time they were 25, 26. And
Yes.
they're some of the greatest players of the club's history.
Yeah.
And they're no longer a part of it. In today's football,
You mean like the ones that went to St Kilda at the end of 86? Yeah.
And these days, you're right, 25, 26, all right, now we're hitting our peak, you usually say, don't
hitting
you?
our peak.
Yeah.
So they still had a lot of footy left in them. But
That's like Cribs. Now just leaving now, you know what I mean? Like at his peak,
Yeah, but he hasn't experienced any premierships.
No, what I'm saying is like at 26, 27, you know what I mean?
No.
Like it's at
Can
your
you
peak.
imagine him leaving now? Yeah. No.
Yeah, so it was quite interesting. And then of course, we had the changeover and Kernan, Bradley, Motley, and
How did that feel? I mean, you and Wayne Johnston and David Glascott were the 3 main ones that I can recall.
Yep.
Keeping your positions in the senior list. A lot of the others had been retired or off to St Kilda or whatever.
Yeah. There was Harms, but he was like...
Harmsy was also still hanging around, but
Was
struggling
86?
to
Yeah.
get into the team.
yeah.
How did it feel to you? Did that rejuvenate you? Did that give you a new lease of life to see all of these young stars from WA like Dorotich and Satori and South Australians like Kernahan and Bradley and Nailey and Motley and guys like that? Did that sort of inject some new enthusiasm? And also the change of coach, of course.
Yeah, look, it did to an extent. I think it was. I wasn't in a leadership role then, but I guess by
You
by age.
were a vice captain in the year before that, I think, from memory.
I can't remember.
I think you were a vice captain
86,
in
wasn't it?
84 and 85.
Oh, 84, 85, I might have been, yeah. But
With
not-
Jono,
not-
I think
yeah.
Johnson was the captain back in 84 and 85.
Yeah, but not when Wolves came across.
No.
it. No, so I guess I was a leader in age and experience.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that you try and be a role model for the younger players as best you can. But not having that leadership type role, you weren't involved in the day-to-day selection of the team or anything like that. But I was fortunate that, as you said before, Vince, there was only David Glascott, the dominator, and myself that survived from the 81-82 side to be able to play in 87. So and to be able to then get 3 premierships for me was a great thrill.
Would have been amazing. Would have been amazing. Because then, as I said, they come along in 86, those players there.
At the
So
start of
definitely
86.
rejuvenated. And Walls was the new coach.
Yep.
He came in 86, did he?
Yes.
All
he
of
came
them
in
at the end
86.
of 85 for the start of the 86 season.
How did that feel? What's the difference between Walls and Parker?
Oh, there's big difference, really.
I know there's a big difference.
Mind you, they're both either school teachers or university lecturers, so they're both from the sort of educational background. Did they have a similar sort of style about them in that respect? Or were they just different?
No, different.
Parkin, with all of his detailed reports after every game?
Parker, no, I mean, Parker, he was
Thorough.
He was thorough, but he was also took a real genuine interest in you as a person. He really did.
Meticulous.
And he would, he'd ring you up just to see how you're going. He's probably one of the first coaches that actually did that, and probably one of the first coaches to analyse a game and give you a report and a rating, and which was beyond any other coach that I'd previously been with.
So I guess I'll sort of stop you there, but hearing you say that tells me that the message to the players was not just that I'm here to critique you or to analyse your performance and criticise it. I actually care about you. So the phone calls to say how you're going would have given you the message, this guy is not just here to analyse me, he actually cares about me and cares how I'm playing and cares how I'm performing.
Yeah, and I think that's...
Cares for me as a person, not just as a player.
Exactly right. And I think that's one of the beauties of being a great coach, I think, is that if you've got a bit of empathy there, that the players really want to play for you.
100%, I agree.
So was that sort of we hear these days about, coaches being good at relationship building. That's a vastly underestimated side of coaching, isn't it? And probably was back then.
Oh, terribly.
These days it seems to be in the forefront of things, but back then it was more about the rant and rave coaches, but Parkin must have been one of the first to really take a genuine interest in his players.
Oh, well, I believe so. You know, other players might have a different view, but for me, he was a great coach for me. And then I guess Wolsey was a different sort of coach. He was very tactically and strategically, he was probably the best coach that I've ever been with.
Yes.
But with his communication wasn't the same as what David Parkin was.
And the training?
The training was
was definitely harder.
It was very. It was.
So that would have been a shock.
Brutal.
It was brutal.
That's what I
Because
heard.
it was coming to the end of your career, and all of a sudden he's lifted up like the training.
Now, did that wear you out, or did that in some ways get an extra 2 or 3 years out of Kenny Hunter?
Oh no, I think it was.
Make you super fit?
No,
or did it take its toll on your aging body?
I think it took its toll a little bit, to be honest, because you sort of, you know, nowadays they take some age into consideration, I think, and train you the way that they want you to play. And back in those days, it was all in one.
Everyone does the same thing.
Everyone does the same thing. And unless you might have been Bruce Toole and let him off.
Yeah, but Bruce used to roll up to training in his full kit, didn't he?
Bruce would front up.
He trained like he played.
He wouldn't want any favours, Bruce. There's no doubt about that. He'd front up and wanted to train just like everybody else. He was amazing, and just a great person to look up to.
That 87 then grand final, so because that would have been a little bit, as you said, it was like a nice surprise at the end, like near the end of your career now, because I don't know, maybe 84, 85 you're thinking, I don't know if we're going to get another one.
You would have been 30 in 87, so
that's how was that, like the 87 season and then into that grand final?
Look, I think it was, I think we all got a bit of a shock when David Parkin was sacked in 85. And perhaps if he had been coach, he might have coached for quite a number of years after that with those players all coming in. But
he said he had a bit of a hand in getting those players over too beforehand, you know.
I've got no doubt he would have been on the phone talking to them or talking to Jeff Motley, the manager of Peter and Craig Bradley at the time. Sorry,
No, I was just saying, like that. Then that 87 come along, and it would have been a nice surprise, you know, to finish off with for premiership at the end of that year. You know what I mean? And like 86, 87 was definitely, you definitely improved as a side. Well, you made 2 grand finals, so
86. I think we learned a lot from that grand final. We got absolutely flogged by Hawthorn, and I don't think we were totally prepared for Hawthorn at that on the day. But
in a way, we showed our hand in the second semi-final, don't you think? Like, we beat them comprehensively. It's almost the reverse of what happened in 82 when Richmond flogged us, and then we figured out a way to beat them in the grand final. I think Hawthorn might have worked us out in 86. And that made a few positional changes. And but then we reversed it again the year after, didn't we? We learned our lessons.
Well, I think also that we learnt our lesson, but 87 we also had Peter Motley, the incident with which is one of the
a little bit more motivation.
Saddest things I've ever seen in footy. And Des English was
also,
battling cancer. So we had a lot of motivating factors.
And Bernie Evans missing out through suspension.
Which is absolutely.
Peter Sartori also missed out with a hamstring injury that year in 87.
He had a good year.
That was his first year with us, and it was a bit of a pity because he was a good player all year.
He was a very good player.
You said like that extra motivation, So there really was this. All of a sudden, did the group get together and there was this extra let's do it for the boys,
That was part of it. I mean, it's all these things, they all add up.
Yeah, that's it. So a little 0.5% here,
0.5% here, 0.5% there. The motivation that they flogged us the year before. And personal
pride, really.
Personal pride. And your personal performance on the big stage when it counts most. They're the things that drive you, and just knowing that these players couldn't be part of it. Not through no fault of their own, it makes you think how lucky you are to be part of the team.
Were you happy knowing that you were coming up against the same old foe that you'd come up against the previous year that knocked you off? Were you happy that you had a chance to get revenge on them rather than play Melbourne? Because it would have been Melbourne if it wasn't for that incident with Jimmy Steins crossing the mark and costing his team 15 metres, and obviously Gary Bacanara kicked the goal at the end of the game. But it could have been Carlton Melbourne grand final.
It could have been. I think we were ready for either of them, really.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have mattered who it was. I think it would have been the same result.
Yeah.
Plus it was a hot day. That would have suited Carlton, because having had a week's rest before, the teams playing beforehand would have been a bit energy sapped. In fact, Carlton looked like they were spent by three-quarter time.
A lot of things went our way, and that was which you need to go your way to win a premiership. So we're fortunate in some cases, but at the end of the day, I think it was we're probably the better side most of the year.
I think so. We only lost 3 games that year by very small margins.
Yeah.
And
it was really, I think it was only 3.
Yeah, it was really the making of Stephen Kernahan.
Yes. What do you think of that decision that Wolsey made at the end of '86 to not only take the captaincy off McClure, but to say your time was finished, it's done, and then all of a sudden making young 23-year-old Stephen Kernahan captain of the team?
That was I found that at the time I thought it was a bit strange. I think because after the '86 grand final, I remember we were in the coach's room, and Wolsey spoke about Sir Sellers in front of us and said that he'd be there next year,
right?
Pretty much, and then
he wasn't.
And then he wasn't.
And then he wasn't.
Yeah, and then Sticks was, who probably initially was a bit slow in showing himself fully as a footballer in '86.
Of course.
Really well to get first year.
Oh, it's his first year in the big time. Even South Australians would have looked at the VFL at the time as a step up from the standard that they'd been playing.
Yeah, but we all knew that he was going to be a player.
Absolutely. Well, look the way he performed in that state game against Bruce Dill.
Yeah.
I mean, kicked 10 goals on him.
Yeah, on Bruce.
Unbelievable.
Who does that?
Who does that?
Not many.
So anyway,
And yet it was Bruce that rang him up, apparently, that convinced him to come to Carlton.
Well, he'd be lucky to get a phone call. Anyone would be lucky to get a phone call.
He wouldn't have said much.
Bruce here. Come to Carlton, hurry up.
So it was a bit of a surprise, I suppose, but once he was made captain, everyone got behind him.
Yeah.
Because he's only a young player, and he'd just come over from South Australia, and we all knew he could play. So
how does that work? How does he tell everyone that Sticks is captain? How did that work? What happened?
Do you remember how that was announced? Was it Wolsey announcing it, or was it?
I think it would have been Wolsey. How it happened, I can't really remember. I just assume it might have been.
Wouldn't have been Jack getting up, getting all the players together. Right, everyone, Sticks is your new captain.
Deal with it.
No, he didn't pick the captain. That was obviously the coach and
the match committee
at the time.
So it would have been pretty important for Sticks to have had the support of guys like yourself and Wayne Johnston, David Glasgow, who'd been there for a number of years, at least 6 or 7 years. In Johnston's case, probably 8 years, 9 years, to get your support behind him. Because if you guys had have reacted like, oh geez, I should have been the captain, and you were just a young bloke, and if there had been a bit of resentment there, I don't think it would have worked very well, would it?
No, and that's a risk I suppose you take when you make those sort of decisions.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Johnston had the captaincy for 2 years in '84, '85. That didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But McClure obviously retired at the end of '86. So, I mean, obviously Wolsey just thought, I'm going to make this call for the sake of the next 10 years.
Yep.
And Sticks ended up being captain for the next 226 games.
Great captain. Great captain.
Yeah, great captain.
Great captain.
And a great bloke.
Yeah, definitely.
Held the record as the most games as captain up until this year when Joel Selwood overtook him this year, unfortunately.
I still say that Sticks was one of the best captains I've ever seen. He demanded like excellence on the ground, or the ball, like you could see, like, I don't know, he just looked like, even in '87 when he ran out,
but
he looked like a leader, didn't he?
But the players around him looked like they walked tall around him.
Yeah.
Did you feel that? Like, did you feel
walks
Like,
all around sticks.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean by that, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, look, no, he's no, look, I had a lot of time for Sticks because Sticks came and lived with me when he first came over to South Australia, and I had nothing but admiration for him as a
And you would have only played the 3 seasons with him, 86, 87, 88.
Yeah.
They were pretty successful seasons, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. But Sticks was, he was just looked like a footballer.
Yes.
Talk like a footballer.
Yeah, talk like a footballer. He did too. That's right.
Walk like a footballer, play like a footballer.
Were you with him at the front of Norton's Hotel when he sang "Stand By Your Man"?
Yeah, I was. That was it wasn't the best football.
At the end of 1987.
That will forever be remembered. For that,
Did you play in the Battle of Britain?
No, thankfully.
Oh, you
I
didn't?
didn't go, so I just got married with Mandy then. So,
Okay.
So I didn't go.
You got away with
thankfully.
it. Yeah.
So it's coming up 35 years married this year then. So
Yeah.
we're 35 year
Yeah,
anniversary
that's
of the
right.
87
Yeah,
premiership.
there you go.
So that's how you celebrated the 87 premiership. You got married.
Pretty much had
Yeah.
most of the
Fantastic.
guys there at the wedding. It was
Fantastic.
a good day.
Wonderful.
All right.
Well, there you go. It was a great career, Kenny. I mean, you spent a lot of time as a defender initially, but you did spend a lot of time in the forward line as well towards the latter part of your career.
Yep.
a few
Did you
goals.
enjoy that change?
Well, look, I was probably a better backman than a forward, let's be honest. But
You played a few games where you kicked a few goals.
yeah, look,
Even 87, you kicked at
You were
least a couple of
nice.
goals, I think.
You were a nice kick.
I wasn't. I could kick it straight.
Yeah.
Put it that way. I didn't have the best kicking style, but I knew how to get it through.
Yeah.
the middle. But it was. I hadn't played up in the forward line, and we played at Victoria Park.
Yeah.
And Graham Teasdale come from behind me and hit me in the back of the head and knocked me out.
Yep.
And they took me off and got to half time and they decided to put me back on and they put me back up in the forward line.
Oh, is that when you first?
And I ended up kicking 3 goals and we won the game. So all of a sudden they thought, oh, hang on.
We found ourselves a forward.
We found ourselves a forward. So from that point on, I was sort of a bit
Yeah.
of a swingman, I suppose, and
Yeah.
went back and forward, and then probably towards the end of my career, spent most of the time up forward.
Yes.
Did anyone in those days ever kick the ball like around their body like they do now? Like when you see that, you find it a little bit like astonishing when you're 10 metres directly in front and then all of a sudden they spin it around like that was
Yeah.
never thought of it.
No, I mean, if you did that back then, you would have got dragged.
Yeah, that's
They
what I
would have
mean,
taken you
yeah.
off for being
Yeah.
a show off or a show pony or whatever. But I suppose percentages, when you look at it, at different angles of the game, it probably shows that you're better off doing that
Yeah.
style of kick.
Yeah.
It gets just frustrating at times when they're trying to attempt it, when it's obviously better
Exactly.
off that they're better off doing a drop punt.
Exactly. It almost feels like they're not confident because if they're doing it like directly in front, that just shows me you're not confident in kicking it direct. Like I can understand along the maybe up along the boundary or something, you try one of them, but yeah, anyway, it's something that's crept in that kind of gets on my nerves a little bit, especially when they miss against Collingwood, then we miss out on on making the final.
Now, just talking about goals, just realised that you were actually Carlton's leading goal kicker with 43 goals in 1983.
Yeah, that's right.
That was one of your earlier years at Carlton. So it wasn't just in the later years that you were sent up forward.
No, that was after I played the game at Collingwood.
Yeah.
It was probably halfway through the season, and I ended up, I got on a bit of a roll and kicking 4 and 5s and whatever, and I ended up winning the
goal kicking for the club.
That's another good
43
stuff.
goals. It's a pretty good effort. There's at least a couple of goals a game average there.
Yeah, I was just
Of course, Ross Ditchburn, the other Western Australian that played in the 1982 grand final and premiership side,
Yep.
He went straight back, didn't he? Because he got knocked out in the 82 grand final.
He did.
And didn't play much of the game, unfortunately, but still got a premiership medal around his neck.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the circumstances were there as to why he went back?
Yeah, I do. It started, I guess.
Because we lost a full forward out of it.
Yeah, well,
Thankfully, we had you there to kick 43 goals the year after.
Well, originally it was, Ross played at Claremont.
Yes.
And he went
Same
back,
club that you played for.
Yeah, and he went back to his farm and was playing at
That's
Cooper.
right. Yes.
And I told David Parker, I said, I know this bloke, and I reckon could play full forward or up in the forward line.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, who's that? And I said, a bloke called Ross Ditchburn. He's got good hands and he's a good kick.
So you recruited him?
Well, no, David Parkin and Shane
Or at least you
O'Sullivan.
suggested him.
Yeah, they drove over to...
So they wouldn't have known about this bloke if it wasn't for you?
they thought,
Wow.
you know, where Ross was, the farm was Cookra.
Yep.
It was just down the road from Perth. It was about a 3.5 hour drive. so by the time they got to Cookra, there was...
They were cooked.
Yeah, it was...
They were cooked in Cookerage.
well, it was night time and there's kangaroos jumping across the road. And they were really worried that they're going to run off the road.
Yeah.
Anyway, eventually they got there and they signed up Ross, and he came over, and they tried him at centre half forward initially, and he sort of struggled a little bit there, and anyway they put him full forward, and that was the turning point for Ditchy.
Yep.
But unfortunately, after the '82 grand final, I think his father got a crook on the farm,
Yes.
so he went back, obviously, to run the farm.
Bit of a pity, really. He was a great full forward. He kicked 12 goals in a game, I remember, against St Kilda at Waverley. It was just an amazing performance. He was a great full forward.
He was.
Beautiful kick for goal.
Yeah, magnificent kick for goal, and big hands. You know,
Yeah.
he could take a nice mark.
I think that might have been the motivation behind getting another full forward, also from Western Australia, the year after.
Yeah, Warren
Remember
Ralph.
him? Warren
Yes.
Ralph,
Yeah,
Kicked 9 goals in his first game, but then started going like that after that. He didn't quite hold his position in the team for
a bit
a number of
unfortunate,
weeks.
because he could kick a goal as well, and from a long way out.
Beautiful kick for
beautiful
goal.
kick.
Magnificent kick for goal.
Yeah,
He could kick it, drop punt 60 metres out without almost post height.
Yeah, but you know,
But just I don't know, his style of playing full forward didn't really suit us, did it?
no, and I think he's
We've
coming
never
from,
really had many full forwards over the years.
well, that's right. And I think he came from Claremont, and he had the Cracker brothers.
Yes.
That could deliver the ball
On
lace out.
yeah.
And then come.
That's the type of full forward he was.
Yeah.
Lead out,
Yeah.
pass it to me, I'll mark it on my chest or out the front,
Yeah,
and then kick it 60 metres and put it through.
Yeah, and can't use that.
Why didn't we change our game plan to suit his style of play to some extent? You've got to play to your strengths, don't you?
Yeah, I think it was probably not trying to rely on any one player to kick all the goals.
Right.
You know, we had Wayne
You had
Johnson.
McClure and
Johnson, Zasto,
McClure.
Mark, all
Yourself.
the little fellas. You
Yep.
know, so I guess there wasn't that just relying on the one foot.
Yeah.
And
Because
you
really,
used to-
if he didn't lead out and take the mark, he was almost pretty useless. Otherwise, he wasn't really good on the ground, was he?
He wasn't great on
No.
the ground. His strength was his marking and his kicking, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so you were courageous with your marking, and that was always the way you played? Or did you ever... You didn't think, did you? You just used to...
I'm glad you raised this because really, to talk to Ken Hunter and not talk about marking and the courage that you showed with your marking,
I think that's what...
would be almost negligent of us to not raise it because you were admired for that.
Back yourself. You just used to...
I did. I think.
Was it just instinctive, or did you think about, hang on, I'm going to get whacked here, or not?
No, I didn't think about it. I think it was even when I was in junior football, I was always a pretty good mark. And then as I progressed through Claremont, there was a time at Claremont where they had. If you took mark of the day, you either won a fridge, a freezer, a television, or a stereo unit.
Okay.
And that was on Channel 7.
Righto.
And then that year I won a fridge, a freezer, a television, and a stereo unit. So I
I think so. You set up the house.
set up the house, and I was only like 20, I think, and they were renting a property and just decked out the whole house. And then I won the Mark of the Year as well, which was like a 5 video recorder. Which,
oh, great! The video recorder.
Which between Better and Pi didn't exist.
But that's in Perth.
That was in Perth. So
Now, what we should also talk
Which
about...
one was it? The beta one?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. They were the
Beta
first.
VHS.
The first ones,
Yeah.
and they never kicked
It
off.
never kicked on, so it was useless
That was
anyway.
useless?
But so then the following year they reverted back to $250 marking it round.
Right.
I only won it once that time, so, but I decked out my old house. So,
Yeah, that's it.
But hang on, when you and Brazasto came to Carlton,
Yep.
he fired all of his shots pretty early, didn't he? He won the Mark of the Year and Goal of the Year in the same year,
He did.
in 1981, their first year.
Yep.
What did he get from getting Mark of the Year?
I don't know what he was.
I think it was a bicycle, wasn't it?
Oh no, that was that might have been 83.
Was it?
Yeah, I won
No, 81 is when he got his mark of the year and goal of the year. Then in 83, you got something a fair bit better than that. When you took mark of the year in 1983.
I did, and I won a car.
That's the best.
He must be spewing about that.
He wasn't happy. He rang up Channel 7 and said my mark was better than his.
Yeah, that'd be right.
And he won it on ABC.
Yes.
And he won a bike.
Because in 80, there you go.
And you won a car.
He won it on the ABC where you're just going to get the state government.
I reckon
money.
Buzz would have rang up and asked for, where's my car? Like,
Sorry, he wasn't happy. I said, mate, you can come and polish my car anytime.
You can come over on your bike.
Come over on your bike.
So you waited until there was a car as a prize before you took your mark of the year. And if you remember, the thing about that mark was the sheer courage of it. You were going with the flight of the ball.
Yeah.
And it was just, it wasn't necessarily the most, high-flying, getting 10 feet up in the air mark, but it was just sheer courage and really epitomised the way you used to take marks. And I think everyone in football, regardless of who they support, is just a great admirer of the courage and sheer bravery of the way you used to play the game and take marks out there on the ground. And often in front of far bigger bodies, you'd throw yourself across the front of a pack.
Yeah, I was a bit
You're on a suicide mission.
Yeah, perhaps I was, but I just, I guess wanted to compete, and I saw the ball, I just wanted to get it, and didn't really worry about the consequences.
But your body must have taken a battering. Come on, Kenny. I mean, you weren't exactly, Rene Kink in the way that you were built. You're a skinny guy, probably about 70 kilos wringing wet. How did your body put up with that sort of punishment? Did you go off with a lot of bruising and battering?
A lot of soreness, a lot of battering, but surprisingly, today I'm not too bad compared to some of the other blokes that I played against are. And my fingers are all straight.
Yes, right. I noticed that. Usually sometimes you see
all bent. My back's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that means one grab marks when you're taking those marks.
That's what I say to my next door neighbour's kid. See these fingers, mate, you've got to,
That's right.
Good hands, safe hands. So.
That's right.
Admittedly, though, injury did keep you out of quite a few games during your career, wasn't it?
Yeah, it did.
You didn't quite get to 150 games, 147 in the end.
147.
For Carlton?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you would have got comfortably 250 if you had started your career at Carlton.
Yeah.
You only came over when you were, 23?
Yeah.
Almost 24.
Yeah, I've never really been big on personal milestones. Whether it be, best and fairest or games played or goals kicked. Yeah. For me, it was all about the game
and the team success, of course,
and the players that you play with, and the club. Coming to a club like Carlton was, for me was one of the best things that could ever happen to me personally, because it was such a great institution to be involved with, and that goes far beyond just the players, and of course it goes to the supporters, and for that I'm eternally grateful for, because it still continues to this day, and that's one of the good beauties of being involved with a successful club, and particularly a club like Carlton, which is so big, and it's got such big support. Yeah, doesn't matter where you go.
100%.
Well, of course, your career finished in 1988, and you had some struggles as a person, post career, and that's been widely reported now. In fact, I think you were the first to talk about this. As a player that struggled with, life, I guess, post football career, and now you're doing quite a lot to try and help other players in that situation. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I guess it was more like in 1988 when I was probably dropped for the first time in my career, and we were heading towards the finals, and I wanted to be part of it. It was halfway through because I always considered myself to be a good finals player, so but I was in and out of the team, and I was getting prescribed sleeping pills by the doctor, and then stronger ones, and before I knew it I was heading down into
slippery path.
Into a place that I didn't know who I was anymore, or what was going on. I thought I was going insane, to be honest. And at the very end I was institutionalised into a hospital, and I thought this isn't the way I want to end my career in a psychiatric hospital. So I had 1 year left on my contract, and I thought, well, I just want to play one game, just one game, so I can leave the game on my own terms and be mentally healthy.
Yep.
So I set myself to go about doing that, and I was able to get back the following year and play 5 games, and I was able to retire.
Yep.
So at least I left the game the way I'd like to go.
Yes.
The other way wasn't too good.
No.
Not to finish like that.
No.
So that's something I was very proud of. And
Yep.
then anyway, it got to the point where I was probably 8 or 9 years later, and I knew that there was a lot of rumours going around at the time as to what happened to me, but no one really knew the truth. And Caroline Wilson rang me up and she said, well, I know what happened to you. And I said, well, you don't. I'm the only one that really knows what happened to me.
Yeah, of course.
And she said, well, would you be prepared to talk about it? And I knew straight away that I would, because for me, growing up as a kid, I'd seen mental health in society, and I came from a poor background initially, and then went from poor to a rich area, and I saw the same issues. Doesn't matter whether you're poor or rich. There was mental illness, and there was domestic violence, there was alcoholism, all those things I saw. So when I was asked about it directly, I thought, well, I'm not ashamed of this, and I'm not going to hide behind it.
Yep.
But I needed to cover it off with my family and where I worked, and I spoke to Parko and my wife, and they didn't want me to do it at the time because they thought they were trying to protect me because no one had spoken about it publicly, really.
Was there sort of a stigma around this?
Yeah,
to some extent.
There was, and I wanted
to even come out and admit to it.
Yeah, there was, and I thought about it for about 6 weeks, and then spoke to my wife and to Parko, and I was working at CEB at the time, and went and spoke to them as well because I worried about the impact it might have on my career. And anyway, I decided to do the story and came out on the back page of the Age, revealed how football nearly devoured Ken Hunter basically.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, it was just all around Australia that I was getting phoned up by radio, TV stations, football clubs, people that had been suffering, and it was just, I knew it was big, but I didn't know how big it was, and it just overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And every time there was a mental illness in society, I was getting rung up by people wanting my opinion. I said, listen, I'm just trying to create awareness. I'm not an expert in this area.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I wanted to talk about it because I wanted people to know that it happens in sport, and you can get through it. You're not on your own.
Yep.
And I wanted the AFL to know there's an underlying issue in the game.
Yes.
And that was why I wanted to speak about it. Back then there was no Beyond Blue, there was no Black Dog, there was no Suicide Australia, there's no support services, so it was a big risk, and I didn't know how it was going to play out. But
it was almost back in those days. It was almost like this. You had to have some bravado about you as a man. You seemed to be weak if you sort of admit to things like this, or
Well, yeah,
man up type of reaction to some people.
Well, that was the
stigma that came with
that was perception. So I don't think anyone could call me weak.
No.
That's why
we're not. So I'm just saying, that's the perception at the time. That typical Aussie sort of.
If you admit that you had depression on that and you're weak,
that's right.
Deal with it,
and that's another reason why I wanted to come out and talk about it because I don't think anyone could accuse me of being a weak person on the footy field.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to try and change that perception and say, well, look, here's a guy that, if you want to say he's weak, well, think again.
Look at the courage you show.
That's right.
So I don't think I could ever been accused of that. So, and I think it was, I'm really glad that I came out and spoke about it, even though at the time it did overwhelm me and I had to pull my head back in, and I was trying to work at the same time. I had a job and trying to put my kids through school and all the things that you do when you're that age. So I sort of
set you back a bit. As you said, it overwhelmed you a bit. Did that kind of make you maybe go back in your shell again and think like,
It did for a
I
little
poke
bit.
my head up. I better get back in again.
like,
it did.
Because everyone all of a sudden wants to put the spotlight on me.
Well, I did. I was just a little bit surprised that, I didn't get a phone call. Not that I expected it from the AFL or anyone else. And I
You
felt
mean the
like-
AFL? You mean that organisation that's got more social justice causes
the
that
time,
it promotes than anything else in society?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
They didn't call you.
Oh, well, no,
By the way, when was this? Was this straight after you retired, or was it within
No.
a year or two or three?
Oh,
or
no, it's probably 8 or 9 years
8 or 9 years
beyond that. And
So
it
we're
was-
talking mid-90s.
Yeah, and it was even later. I think it was like 2000
Oh right.
or 1999. I think it was.
Right.
Yep.
So
This is a good decade after you
10 years,
yeah,
retired.
yeah. So it was quite interesting that it was, it was still being amongst the football public. There was
Yes.
rumours and probably people wanting to know what did happen and knew there was a story there of some sort, but didn't really understand what it was.
Yep.
And I guess, as I said before, if someone had to ask me 2 years after it or 5 years, I probably would have done the same thing because I wasn't ashamed.
No.
Yeah, no.
So tell me, so part of that was, so you're on top of the game
Yep.
in your sporting. You're a king. You're walking around. I'm telling you, if you're an AFL footballer, especially if you're a Carlton footballer, and then all of a sudden you retire, or like you said, you were struggling to get a game, you retire, and then you're back to being just a normal person, correct? Is that part of dropping off, feeling that depression?
Look, I think it is, and it's
In other words, you're basically living in a bubble as an AFL
Yeah.
footballer.
yeah.
Then you either retire or you get dropped. Or a lot of players don't have a say in how they retire.
Oh, most
They
of
get
them.
told.
Yeah,
So you can imagine how many of them,
yeah.
fall into this state of depression and
Yes.
that part of it?
and disillusionment with life because they're all of a sudden out of the bubble. They're no longer glorified. They're no longer sought after for a signature or whatever,
I don't think it's that. I don't think
or
it's about the-
photos and that sort of thing. These days.
No, I don't think it's part of the glorification. I think what they miss is the competition.
Yes.
They miss the camaraderie.
Yep.
They miss
With
the,
their teammates and all
yeah,
that. Yeah.
structure, and they miss the support.
Okay.
Yeah,
More so than the glamour and glitz of being an AFL
there
footballer.
might be
There might be a few.
a few that, but generally speaking, I don't think it's like that at all. I think
Right.
the
So
real
in other
reason-
words, they're largely left to their own devices to organise their own lives, and
Yeah.
there's no longer this regimented structure around what happens every day, and
yeah.
now they have to fend for themselves.
Yeah, they do pretty much, and I think, look, some organisations have got better, but I've sat back over the years and just watched it all, and I've seen people, at the end take their own lives, like
Yeah.
there's Danny Frawley and Shane Tuck and Jacinta Barclay and
Yes.
Harley Vallick, and the list goes on. And I think
Yeah.
surely as a sport, we're in the sporting community, we're better than this.
Yeah.
Something's got to happen.
Yes.
And I've been waiting for something to happen, and nothing's happened.
Yeah.
So throughout COVID, I started talking to organisations, ringing them up,
Yep.
Australian Institute of Sport, NRL, Netball Australia, and all had the same issue.
So you've now started this
We'll put it
the
up.
fifth quarter.
We'll put it up. We're gonna
The fifth quarter foundation.
Fifth Quarter Foundation, it's a charity, so basically what we're trying to do is provide a service for retiring sports people, initially AFL, I think.
Yep.
Basically having a physical facility that they can go to.
Yep.
Because I think what happens is that when people retire, they lose their identity, their purpose, and they're vulnerable. And when they're vulnerable, they make poor decisions.
Yeah.
So then they're drinking, gambling, relationship problems.
Yes.
Or they go and buy a business because they think they need to maintain a lifestyle and they end up going broke and
Yep.
losing all their money. All of these things happen. But there's no one place they can actually go to. They can speak to their manager or they can speak to a psychologist, but what I'm trying to say is that there's one step before that. There's an early intervention where by talking to these people when they first come out of the game that they know, okay, there is support for me. Whether they choose to take that up or not is up to them.
Yep.
But at least having something in place that they know that he's got their back pretty much. And that's what we're trying to do with fifth quarter.
The fifth quarter, yeah.
That's great.
I think it's a great idea. As you said, like, I don't think the public understands, like, because you think, oh, man, you're an AFL footballer or you're a VFL footballer. Well, what have you got to complain about? You know what I mean? And then, but they don't really understand that. Yeah. You deal with these problems also, just like. Yeah. So just because you're an AFL footballer doesn't mean.
Is it almost a case of, you know, we've heard the old saying, whatever goes up must come down. A footballer's in some ways vulnerable to being up in this high tower of society, and everyone looks up to them. You know, you're glorified to some extent, and then all of a sudden you come crashing down because you're out of the sport, you're out of that organisation, you're out of that bubble.
Yeah.
Is that what can cause, to some extent,
look,
this fall?
Yeah, look, I think it's you know, it's more. I don't think it's a glorification thing. So I don't think it's that at all. I think it's just that there's not too many occupations where, say, on.
Well, that's the other thing. Are they prepared for life after football?
You know, you get to 30 and it's all over, and you've got to try and reinvent yourself and try and go back to regular society and try and fit in. You know, and
this
you're
is
on
what Parker was pretty strong on, wasn't he? David Parker was very keen on players educating themselves or holding another job or doing something else with their time that helped advance them and prepare them for life after football as well, because if it was only football and that's the only thing you got to think about, he didn't think that was a healthy situation for any footballer.
Well, he's right, but try telling that to a footballer or professional athlete that all they're thinking about is the next game, who their opponent is, how their body feels,
how they're playing,
how they're playing. You want me to go and study? And then you, when you go out of it, whatever study you do mightn't be relevant anyway, because you find out that your whole identity is wrapped up around the club, and you go outside of it and you go, well, who am I? You know, what am I? And this happens.
And it's more difficult now. Do you agree it's more difficult now because of the social media and even just like just on the game, the way they analyse the game now to the umpteenth, you know what I mean? So, and the pressure on these kids, you know, so it's even worse now.
It is, and it's like it's you know,
if you make one bad mistake in a game these days, it's talked about on just about every show, whether it's Footy Classified or anything on Foxtel, and they highlight every little mistake that costs a goal or that could have turned the game. Back in your days, it wasn't the case.
Only up on the Sunday morning.
Sunday morning with the boys, but at least that was contained within the boys.
But it's definitely worse now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think it's because the AFL Players Association, they play a big role in this, and they do a pretty good job in some respects. So what we're not saying that we want to take over the AFL Players Association. We just want to help enhance it and be an additional 100%. Safety net. So because with the AFLPA, you've got to play one senior game pretty much to get the benefits of the AFL Players Association. But then you've got the other side where people are on a senior list that don't get a senior game, but their lives have been put on hold. And
they're the same.
They're the same.
Put on hold, of course.
And so they just get turfed out basically and forgotten about pretty quickly, and they've got to suffer in silence. A lot of them.
That's right.
So, I mean, we're trying to create something which hopefully gets up and works. But if it doesn't, at the end of the day, at least we know that we
So the important thing to distinguish here is this is something you're trying to set up to provide practical support, not financial support. It's practical support for people that are feeling, lost or feeling depressed, to help them get back on the right track.
Well, we'd rather see people come in and see us rather than sit at home and stare at four walls, or just drive around aimlessly, wondering where to go or what to do, or they're feeling a bit crook and they go to the doctor and the doctor says, "Oh, here's some pills, and come back and see me in 2 weeks' time."
You do question sometimes the wisdom behind some of these
So you just
some of these
set 'em up-
prescriptions for things like antidepressants and whatever.
Yeah. So basically, what we're saying is that you got a facility that understands you.
Yeah.
Understands you as an athlete or what you're going
And
through.
what you're going through.
Yeah.
So what people need in that situation is empathy, don't they? So do you want to set it up with people who have been through it, like yourself, as consultants to these players, that they can talk to someone who's been through it? Is that important for this organisation to have people like that?
Yep, that'd be part of.
Yep.
The other parts where not necessarily that you've been through it, but you've seen it. Like it could be
or witnessed it close
it
to
could be
hand.
ex-coach or
Medical people.
Yeah, medical people that have been seen it firsthand and experienced in mental health and well-being. So the first part, I think, is to try and get a facility that's a safe place, like a drop-in centre. I call it a mental health hub or whatever. So people come in and out and know that there's people there. The second part would then be to get like a peer support manager, which would be somebody that, if you came in, Vince, as an ex-athlete, that you sit down with a peer support manager and you go through where you're at now as a person, and then if you need help with financial advice, then you send them to a financial advisor. If it's a legal problem, you send them to a legal service. If it's a drinking problem, you send them to proper alcohol. So it's being triage those services and working on a plan for the person, and then keeping in contact with that person throughout the journey.
That's great.
And it might be that it's not just when people finish, it could be that you've been out of the game for 3, 4, 5 years, and all of a sudden you wake up and go, I hate this job that I'm doing, I don't know who I am. And, I've tried to do my best, but there's got to be more to life than what I'm doing.
Yes.
So you can try and help those people
good.
as well.
And this is for all sports?
Initially, we'd like it to be for sports.
Guys.
I think
You want to crawl before you walk, before you run.
No.
Try AFL to start with.
Well, but it's a good point, Rocco, because the issues that happen in AFL, they happen in every other sport.
100%,
and we've seen that.
Whether it's cricket, whether it's soccer, whether it's netball or whatever.
And the sporting organisations, I think, and peak bodies, they perhaps don't do enough. And what we're saying is, perhaps we could take that away from you by having an independent service, which could help those athletes across all sports. But initially, I think we just need to stick with the AFL. That's what we know, and we do know that there is problems within that system now, and it could be better. So I'm hoping that I can talk to the AFL and talk to the AFL Players Association about whether they would hopefully support to get fifth quarter up and going.
How's it been so far with the people that you've spoken to at AFLPA and the AFL itself? How's it going?
Well, I've got some meetings with them coming up, but I must say that conceptually it's been well received by a lot of people, but it's but you do need that. You
need the cash, Rocco.
You need and being a not-for-profit and being tax deductible DGR status, that we're in a good position, I suppose, to be able to go to corporates and try and get some money, particularly those that sponsor sport.
That's probably the one area that I think is where I'd be going, the corporate world, to try and put back into society. And I mean, the corporate world gets right behind football teams and other sporting teams, so this is one of the ways they can do it, in supporting an organisation like that, couldn't they? If they're a big company, they can. They've got big budgets to sponsor clubs or sponsor organisations. So this is one way that they could really make a name for themselves in supporting a cause like this.
And it'd be a lot easier if the AFL initially gave you a bit of backing, then you got a
bit of a leg up.
A bit of a leverage off the back of that. But I don't know how it's going to go. But until you sort of at least get somebody involved, and then it makes you a bit more confident that you can actually make this work. So,
tell me, Kenny, I don't know if you had them in your day, but club psychologists. We hear that they've all got their psychologists these days. What is the role of those people now within clubs, and is it just confined to helping players day to day, week to week, while they are footballers, and there's no real focus on life after football with these psychologists, or
Yeah, to be
what's the role of a psychologist these days at a football club?
To be perfectly honest, I don't really know. I haven't been involved in the club
Right.
for quite some time, but I think
Did you have them in your day or not? Or did you just have the chaplain, like the local priest?
no, we had Laurie Hayden,
All right.
who was David Barton brought on board, and
Yes.
he used to get us to lay on the ground and try and imagine,
Imagine taking a big mark like Kenny Hunter.
Yeah, well, that sort of stuff. And, some of us took it seriously, some of us didn't. So, look, I think they've all got a role to play, and I think clubs are probably a lot better at doing that. But I don't know how good they are beyond it.
I get the feeling, I could be wrong, but I get the feeling that whether it's the AFL or whether it's individual football clubs, their focus is on getting the most out of these players while they're on the list and while they're playing football, and while the focus is trying to get to the premiership. And once you've run your race and once you've sort of outlived your usefulness in that regard, they've chewed you up and spat you out, and basically you're on your own. See you later.
Yeah, look, that can happen.
And we've just heard this week about a couple
getting-
more delistings.
I
The
think it's
standard
getting
line
better,
is
though.
we thank them for their contribution to the club.
Yeah.
And that's
But
it.
it's definitely getting better.
It is getting better, but I think there's a long way to go. I think because, as I said, with peak sporting bodies, is that they're trying to run the competition.
Yeah.
They're trying to play the current day players. They just haven't got a budget or the resources
Yeah.
to put into past players.
Yeah.
And look, the AFL and NRL probably got more than others, and I've spoken
Of
to a lot
course.
of Netball Australia, and they would love something like this because they just don't have the money or the resources.
Yeah.
So the further you go down the chain
Yeah.
to the peak organisations,
The less it is,
the
of
less it
course.
is,
Yeah.
but with the same problems.
Well, Kenny, we wish you all the best with that.
No, terrific.
And
Yeah.
you keep in touch with us and let us know how you're going. And if
Yeah.
there's any further developments, we'll report it on the Jumper Punch.
I think you're doing
where you
great.
get all of your exclusive Carlton news.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a great thing. Yeah, as
It is a
I said,
great
like
thing.
one of these things definitely have to be talked about and help. And we sit there, and especially like me and my show, we criticise every player for everything they do, but at the end of the day, we wish the best for them. At the end, of course we do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't play at a high level, and you don't expect that. So
Yeah, that's right.
It all
That's
comes
right.
with the territory.
Yeah,
so-
no, that's right. That's right. So that's what we do. So that's that's a really good thing. Yeah, you're doing great.
Well,
True.
Kenny,
Thanks.
you had a fantastic career. 4 times All-Australian, 3-time Premiership player, Carlton Hall of Fame, AFL Hall of Fame as well,
Yep.
and a member of the 20th, what was it, the team of the 20th century as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
And Mark of the Year.
And one of the most admired and respected players, not only by Carlton supporters, but right
Yeah,
across the
no doubt.
AFL. So, mate,
No, terrific.
it's a credit to you,
No,
and
good on you,
good on
Vince.
you for what you're doing with the 5th quarter. And
No, good on you, Rocco.
we wish you all
Thank
the
you
best,
very
mate.
much.
Good to see you again, guys. Yeah.
Alrighty,
And go Blues.
Go Blues.
go Blues.